speak a little bit about this topic, which is love. And the topic is actually all we need is love. And I felt like singing that all we need is love from the Beatles. And I would like to thank my beautiful wife that helped me to prepare the slides. As you can see, I don't have like this touch with details and this careness that she actually delivers anytime that she prepares a lecture, anytime that she prepares a lecture and the slides. On my way here, I always have like difficulties to try to find exactly how I'm going to start the lecture, because I think when I start well, I finish well. And sometimes I get like a little crippled, a little like confused how I can start delivering this message, because on my way here I asked Andrea to drive the car so I can like try to imagine or wish for inspiration for someone at the other realm of life to give me some kind of insight so I can go forward and try to deliver this message, this very important topic. And even though I was like calm, she played like a music that I loved so much, I still like struggling, trying to find the beginning, because how can we put something relative inside of something that is absolute? When we talk about love, we have a limited vision and a limited understanding what love means. And we, of course, relate love to the capacity of understanding that we all have. Some people think that love is like when we find someone and we have that feeling of sympathy, of like enjoying the presence of his companion. I remember when we get into the center, I saw John Raphael, and I have a feeling, a very tender feeling by him, and he probably thinks like, well, this guy is crazy, because I simply have a feeling by him that I like him very much. I like Sandra very much, and I shared these feelings, and he thought probably I was being kind with him, but it was an honest and sincere talk that I simply like to be around here. And what is love? How can we put love, something that's so relative, through the perspective that through the analysis that we have, capacity to bring to our life? The objective of every creature is to find true love. Love as Christ always thought about us. Love that simply forgives with no pretensions to understand what is going on inside of the creature's life, but simply forgives. It simply understands and simply envision a horizon that will bring us to a different level of understanding. A level of understanding that simply live in simplicity and trust that everything in its right place and everything will be shining bright one day until we accomplish the unfinished business that we all have to pass through. How can we put the relative vision of a human life of men and women inside something so broad and so infinite, which is the pure essence of the Creator? Love is something that it's difficult to make this analysis. But I understand, and I think since we are here at the Spiritist Center, we all know this is a process, and we are going to, step by step, reach to a point of understanding what love is. And we are in this process. Each one, according to his or her capacity, will understand and will perceive love accordingly with his or her background. And we see this. And I'm going to bring some passages of the gospel in the book Plenitude by Joanna de Angelis. And I will show a few videos just to try to exemplify some aspects of the topic today. I don't have the pretensions to cover all the aspects of love, but I am trying to focus in one aspect that simply feel love. We might don't understand exactly what it is, but it's good to feel. When Sandra says like, whatever, what is that, whatever?
Whatever the question, love is the answer.
Whatever the question, love is the answer. And I love this quote because all her emails, she ends with this quote. And she's absolutely right. Whatever the question, love is the answer. But not the love as we mentioned in the beginning, as we think love is. Because love is much wider and much brighter and much broadened, so we can understand at this level of evolution that we are all in. And I brought in the gospel according to Spiritism that in the beginning, if the human heart, because we think we live in a world full of hatred, full of division, full of walls, we should bring bridges, not walls. We should open our hearts, constructing and building bridges from our hearts to others and understanding where they come from. And sometimes we're not going to be able to see in the vast vision where they are coming from because they don't know where we are coming from. But we get together and converge in a point of sincere feeling and let love be the answer, as Sandra Everhoff is always mentioning in her emails. If the human heart is an abyss of corruption, there is always, in some of its hidden-most corners, the seed of a few good sentiments, life sparks of spiritual essence. We all have this essence because the essence of the Creator, it's so divine and pure. And his essence is love. Since everything that he creates is supremely good and just will be, of course, because we are in this process and time is extremely relative due to the capacity, the limitation of capacity that we perceive and understand time, this is a process of being germinated. It's just like a small seed trying to reach and to spread through the earth, so one day it can break the surface and see the shine, see the light that we are all destined to be. So keep going with the topics. At their origin, humans have only instincts, more advanced and corrupted. They have only sensations, more educated and purified. They have sentiments. The exquisite apex of sentiment is love. Not love in the ordinary sense of the term, but that inner sun that condenses and joins at its ardent focal point all superhuman aspirations and revelations. So we see the destination. We might stage in one point, but this is our destination. The sun, the inner sun that we all have, one day will brighten. We'll like break all the walls and we will see something much, much better. Like we're going to find hope. I hope, we already have hope, that one day this hope will be more strong and sincere and with absolutely trust in God's creation, and you will see that all the problems that we face at this moment are simply little scratches in the soul. And we will see something step at a time, one step at a time, something much, much better. Let's keep going with the slides. In in the book Evolution in Two Worlds, there's one chapter, actually one subchapter that says like the evolution of love. It is important to realize that as we move forward from nearly total animality to integration of humanity, love takes on a more elevated dimension, both for those who vertically ascend in virtue and those who horizontally expand in intelligence. Because we see and we know that the Spirit have like, symbolically speaking, two wings of evolving, of growing. One is the horizontal, which is the intelligence that we try to develop, which one actually it's the first one. And then when we get along with these new feelings, more elevated spirits, we see the verticality of this feeling that will rise us to something that it's actually our destination. I always relate to the Sermon of the Mount that brings us beautiful quotes. And when Jesus brought that specific quotes, he was not talking about something philosophical. He was bringing us some kind of consolation in the guidelines for happiness. Blessed are the humble. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are the pure in spirit, for they shall see God. One day we will be pure in spirit. When we get rid of all materialized vices, material stuff that still holds us back in this process of evolution. And we will see God not in the sense like I am seeing you guys, but in complete conjunction, in complete, what is the word that I would like to say? Communion with the Creator. And we are going to jump from one stage to another, being co-creators in higher planes of life. At this moment we are co-creators of God, of course, but in small scale. And each one of us can be a co-creator in a small scale, doing good deeds, being a presence of fraternity in his or her community, in his family, for the kids, for friends, in society as a whole. Being this instrument of peace, as St. Francis of Assisi always mentioned, God, make me an instrument of your peace. He was wishing, and he was in communion with the Christ teachings, and asking him with the constant communion and contact with through the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. We see where there is hatred, let me sow love. Because we see in the world that we live in so many walls, as I mentioned before. Let's put the walls down and open the bridges. Open the bridges to life. Not because we're going to make the world better. Of course we're going to make the world better. But because we're going to be happier. We're going to be like finding something that we, until now, are still lacking and still like missing so much. One flock and one shepherd, as Christ mentioned long ago. Let's keep going with the slides. In the book Plenitude, Joanna de Angelis brings love is the antidote to all causes of suffering, because it proceeds from the divine consciousness which generates and sustains life in all its expressions. And she says like, enlivened, that's the correct pronunciation, by love, humans discern, aspire, act and surrender themselves with confidence radiating life-giving energy that constantly renews them and changes the landscape around them for the better. For the better. It's pretty, very British. Yeah. I'm trying to remember my dear friend here. Love is always the wise counselor in all circumstances, efficiently guiding the individual and producing salutary results that drive progress and happiness. And Joana de Angelis brings something else that I have the book here. Actually, this chapter that was translated, and the book is coming up in a little bit. And she says, more. Love is the most powerful antidote for any degenerative phenomena that take the form of pain, ingratitude, aggression, imbalance, crime, or disgrace. It has ingredients that dilute evil and favor the emergence of hidden good. And she goes on trying to explain and giving this topic as such a more aspects. Wherever progress strives, love manifests. There are exceptions, as in the case of horizontal growth, in which self-interest and greed foster economic, technological, and social development. But even then, when we find greed, this is my quote, this is a part that I insert in Joana de Angelis' book. But even then, love is present, although directed towards selfishness and the satisfaction of the senses, from which it will then give rise to altruistic gestures that provide joy to others and widespread well-being. Without taking the first step, nobody can go the distance. Life is impossible without love. Love is subtle. Love is sensitive. It's patient and constant. It is never annoying and never imposing. However, those who experience it never forget it. Even if its flow is momentarily interrupted, it always resumes. At the root of every noble action is the sap of love, producing the sustaining of life. It's beautifully analyzed by the spirit Joana de Angelis. And she also says that using this life-giving energy is a duty in with lucid awareness of its magnitude, applying it for the sake of harmony, puts an end to suffering. Love is a positive vibration that engenders enthusiasm and optimism, giving color to one's existence. It restores the tired soil of the heart and drains the swamp in which the pestilence of the passions has let hope and joy decompose. How poetic is this? Because bringing back Sandra, love is always the answer. And we have to get into this feeling, even in the earliest stages of understanding that we all have at this moment. Let's not procrastinate and experience to love at least a little bit. Instead of repulsing someone, let's try to understand. Instead of complaining most of the time, let's do understand. Sometimes we have the feeling and the impulsive reaction of fighting back, putting someone against the wall, because in many cases we were put against the wall. But there's no wall. The wall that is behind us is our ego. Because what is important in life, in this momentarily transition and stage of transition that we all are inserted, then to love and to learn how to love. in this beautiful moment of existence that we are all inserted in. This is just a glimpse of time, a small fraction of the eternity. Because as I said many times, we are going to cross eternity with our own immortality. And this is beautiful. We are going to live forever. And let's resume our possibilities to face and to find this dignity that the creature has in the latent potentialities inside of our spirit, and bring it back to the source, the immaculate source of divine light that we are all created one day. Love is dynamic. It leads to constructive activity, responsible for progress. And Joanna finished this sentence. Love is what leads to fraternal piety and compassion, inducing individuals to solidarity and even sacrifice. We are living in the moment of our society, and when we said that we are building, I know, no, not yet. We are living in a moment of our society that we are bringing walls back to our lives. Who is the enemy? The enemy, it seems to be outside. The enemy is the other. The enemy is the other religion. The enemy is someone that doesn't convey with our way of thinking. The enemy is somebody outside, but sometimes, most of the time, the enemy is inside. We bring here three guys that actually met in October. Andrea has a picture of them. They call three amigos. It's a Muslim, it's a Protestant priest, and he's a rabbi. Ted, Jamal, and Don Mackenzie were giving a speech about something that actually, ultimately, it's about love. It's about putting together something that we all have in common. We are all sons and daughters of the Creator. Let's hear a little bit about this video. Whoops, what happened? Go back.
We are Three Stooges fans, actually. In fact, we are the very incarnation of their famous line, "We tried to think, but nothing happened."
10 years ago, when we began working together, we did what many interfaith groups do. We shared with each other from the wisdom of our spiritual traditions.
This is my commandment that
Let's try again.
This is my commandment that you love.
That's how it was for the first 3 years. The passage I was reading was from the prophet Micah, calling us to act justly, to love kindness, and to walk with integrity.
The passage I was reading is from the Gospel according to John, where Jesus is instructing his followers on the meaning of unconditional love.
And the verse in the Quran says, repel evil with something which is better, so that your enemy becomes your intimate friend. So you see, beautiful words from each of our traditions. But the problem is, we're all stuck in patterns of behavior. Here's our favorite teaching story. The mullah goes to work Lunchtime opens his lunch pail box, and what does he find? A cheese sandwich.
Second day, third day, fourth day, another cheese sandwich. He says, I hate these cheese sandwiches.
Finally, his puzzled co-workers say, Mullah, why don't you go home and say to your wife, please, make me a different kind of sandwich?
The mullah says, I'm not married.
Who makes them?
I do.
When 9/11 revealed a far more serious kind of stuckness, I immediately called Jamal. I knew him, we had never worked together, and I invited him to share with me at the Shabbat service that week, because it was crucial to offer a more authentic face of Islam than the face that created the fear of all Muslims, supported by the media.
So Rabbi Ted and I became good friends. Then we became good friends with Pastor Don McKenzie, and soon I realized that Ted and Don are two of the best Muslims I know.
We had to shoot him.
But of course, they missed lousy shots. So I immediately explained that the word Muslims, one's attachment to the ego. So as the Quran says, one can bring a heart turned in devotion to God. They understood completely, and we averted a major global crisis.
Thanks be to God. We marked the first anniversary of 9/11 with an event at my church, and after it was over and we were debriefing, the three of us looked at each other and said, we can't stop now. And our work has evolved with a framework that contains the idea that true interfaith dialogue can lead to effective collaboration on the moral issues facing our world today.
People have asked us, why is interfaith dialogue so difficult? And one of the reasons we suspect has to do with the confusion between the particular and the universal. Every authentic spiritual path is an avenue to a shared universal. But that universal is far greater than any particular path. And when the particular path assumes that it owns the universal, when a Jew says, we are the only chosen people, when the Christian says, the only way to God is through Jesus, when the Muslim says, the Jews and Christians got it wrong and we finally got it right, we're in for serious global difficulties. Spirituality is inclusive. Spirituality points to the absolute interconnectedness of all being. In interfaith dialogue, we are able to share with each other the beautiful teachings in our traditions focused on oneness and unconditional love and compassion. But if we are to truly engage, we must share as well those areas that have been the taboos, the areas in each of our own traditions which are inconsistent with those core teachings. Inconsistencies like exclusivity, violence, inequality of men and women, and homophobia. Especially exclusivity. And I'm right about that. That's my story.
And you're sticking to it. Okay. You know, we laugh to keep from crying often, but we also laugh because it gives us hope. And it gives us hope because comedy always eclipses tragedy in the same way that the oneness, the unconditional love, and the compassion can eclipse the woundedness and the brokenness of our world. In God's eyes, nothing is ever irreparably broken. My participation in interfaith dialogue has given me the opportunity to acknowledge the Christian repudiation of Judaism, of Islam, In fact, the repudiation of anyone and anything not truly Christian, not truly Christian. For many non-Christian people, the cross has become a symbol of an oppressive and arrogant triumphalism that has led to a tragic and destructive repudiation. For me, the cross shows us the extent to which one can and sometimes must go to make unconditional love real. I look forward to the day when the cross symbolizes the unconditional love that Jesus came to teach.
In some very remarkable verses, the Quran says that if Allah wanted, Allah could have made all of us, all of humanity, one single community. But out of a divine design, God chose to create diversity so that, as the Quran says, you might get to know the other. Can you get to know the other on a human level? Not to change the other, but simply to connect heart to heart. This is a very critical verse. Sometimes the institution of religion makes this difficult. Here's another very well-known story. The Spirit of God comes down and reveals certain basic truths to some people, but then the devil comes along and says, let me organize that for you.
And that sometimes is called religion.
So you see, interfaith is not about conversion. It's about completion, becoming a more complete, fully human being. And from this place of inner spaciousness, we can then collaborate on projects which are dear to all of our hearts. Issues of social justice and earth care. That is why this beloved 13th century sage, Rumi, says, in fact, he uttered, "Oh God, you have created this I, you, we, they, to play the game of adoration with yourself. Let's play this game of adoration."
Our theme song contains words in Arabic, Hebrew, and English. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. La ilaha illallahu. La ilaha illallahu. Adonai hu ha Elohim hu. Adonai hu ha Elohim hu. It's all one and I am as I am. It's all one and I am as I am. Thank you.
It's a powerful video. We can stop the lecture now. I know we have like a few minutes and I have like a whole bunch of other slides. But I'll keep talking. I'm not keep talking to you guys. I'm gonna keep talking to myself. Because in this world of diversity, as the Imam Jamal mentioned, yes, we were created long ago, millions and billions of years ago, simple and ignorant, without knowledge. But this process of acquiring knowledge and bringing to us the essence that we all have inside, which is the divine light, we will choose different pathways of life. We might make mistakes, and we're gonna have to come back and make amends. In making this amends, we are ultimately looking for something back, going back to the essence that we were, that was inserted in each one of us, which is love in a sense that we don't know yet. Yes, we are in a moment of very difficult moment, I would say. It's a grave, it's not the word. I'm doing a translation straight from Portuguese to English. It's a very difficult moment because we are in a transitional world and we see people again going back to their old habits of they are the enemy and we are the good guys. But indeed we don't know each other very well. And we are assuming much more than we are understanding. We assume because the lack of dialogue, because the lack of understanding that we all come from different social environmental, and we all come from different lifestyles, we are in this position of assuming that we are sons and daughters of the Creator, bringing back to our life and our existence something that we miss so much. And it is in our hands to choose one way or another. It's up to us. Which way we are going, which road we are going to take. It's up to us. Spiritism brings us not a new religion, but a way of understanding that we all came from the same source. In this body of knowledge that we call Spiritism, it doesn't put one religion down and the other religions up. It simply creates a conversion point so we can mix together, understand all the phenomenology that happens in humanity and in our lives, and doing the travel back to the source, going back to something that we miss so much. Why do we need love? Because love enables us to practice the true charity as understood by Christ. And I'm bringing one question of the Spirit's book. Benevolence toward everyone, indulgence toward the imperfection of others, and forgiveness of offenses, in questions 886. But if we go on reading this wonderful book, we will see that Jesus also thought, love even your enemies. And Kardec asked, but isn't loving our enemies contrary to our natural tendencies? And doesn't enmity proceed from a lack of sympathy between spirits? And the good spirits answered, it is obviously not possible to show tender and passionate love toward one's enemies, and that it's not what Jesus wanted to say. Loving one's enemy means to forgive them and to return good for their evil. That is how we put ourselves above them. By seeking vengeance, we only place ourselves beneath them. There's a story that I think we're not going to have time to say, but it's actually, I'll try to simplify the story. This is something about a Palestinian guy, Aziz Abu Sarah. And Aziz Abu Sarah explains how he recovered from the murder of his brother and learned how peace and love can be potent tools of activism. He's also on TED Talk. He was 10 years old and his brother was 18. They were living in Palestine, and we know the conflict between Jews and Arabs and Palestinians. And his brother was arrested because they were throwing rocks at the Jews' cars. They're throwing rocks because they thought like they are the enemies. And they're in this conditioned movement throwing rocks at the enemies. Like they are the good, bad people and we have to fight. His brother was arrested by the Israeli army, and the Israeli army beat him until he died because his internal organs was so messed up. And he, at the end, confesses that they were throwing rocks. His brother, Aziz Abu Sarah, developed this kind of hatred by the Jews, by the Israelis. And when life passed, he was engaging in many activist movements against against Israel. In one specific moment of his life, he was about 18 years old, because he wanted to progress and to study and to have a better life. He was in the Jewish school, and he needed to learn to speak Hebrew. And he refuses in the beginning, because Hebrew was the language of the enemy in his mind, in his conception. But getting along with the Jews that share the classroom with him, he found out that they were exactly like him, with mundane tastes. They're simple people, wishing to be happy, wishing to love, wishing understanding. And he started putting his guard down and understanding that the enemy is not outside. The enemy is something that he was feeding, was the hatred, feeling that he was feeding so much by that specific moment of life that he lost his brother. And then life did his wonderful transformation. And sometimes pain is the tool that makes us understand that we have to change the course of our lives. And he chooses it. Tentatively, he said, I began choosing to respond with love. I found that it changed things. It might not change others' minds, but it did change me. It taught me forgiveness. I remember waking up every morning and saying to myself, I forgive, not because the person who killed my brother deserves it, but because I want to forgive. It was so redeeming, so transformational. Suddenly, the next time a bomb went off in West Jerusalem, I didn't think, oh, they are my enemy, who cares? I thought, wait, my friends live there. I started calling to make sure they were safe. My journey to forgiveness began by being willing to take a first step out of my comfort zone. I forced myself to stay with this discomfort. And I will bring another statement that he brought in his TED Talk. The terror is claiming many lives, but we must not let it claim our souls as well. It's a road that we have to take, when we have to choose, because we have many roads in our life. Which one we are going to take. But forgiveness is not about condoning violence or renouncing justice. It's setting yourself free from anger so that it doesn't consume you. That energy can then be used to bring people together. Mother Teresa says, I have found the paradox that if you love until it hurts, there can be no more hurt, only more love. And we see in this beautiful process, we want to start. This lecture is about an invitation, not only for you, but for me, mainly for me. Let's start. We're going to leave this room today. We're going to have the passes. We're going to go to outside and to face the obstacles, the families, the challenges that we have. And we can choose, because nothing is going to change outside. People are not going to be more kind with us. We're going to have the same brother, the same sister, the same father, the same mother, the same boss. We cannot change them, but we can change ourselves. It's up to us what kind of pathway in life we want to choose, we want to pick. What are we doing for others? How do we love our neighbors? How do we promote love in the world? The same question was asked to Mother Teresa. I'm bringing her like many times today. And she says, what can you do to promote world peace? Go home and love your family. It means start from the beginning. Because sometimes we want to save the world. And we forgot about the main cell of, the main school that we are brought in. Our family. Our loved ones. The most close ones. Let's start from the beginning, because we cannot accomplish big tasks if we not start with small ones. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, so we can finalize with a video, we have love summarizes Jesus' doctrine in its entirety, because it is the sentiment par excellence, and the sentiments are the instance raised to the high of degree of progress accomplished. And now another video that I think you guys are going to love it so much. I love it so much. Well, I can't say it. You guys are going to love it. I love it.
La mayor parte de los habitantes del planeta se declaran creyentes. Esto debería provocar un diálogo entre las religiones. No debemos dejar de orar por él y colaborar con quienes piensan distinto.
Confío en Buda.
Creo en Dios.
Creo en Jesucristo.
Creo en Dios, Alá.
Muchos piensan distinto, sienten distinto, buscan a Dios o encuentran a Dios de diversa manera. En esta multitud, en este abanico de religiones, hay una sola certeza que tenemos para todos. Todos somos hijos de Dios.
Creo en el amor.
Creo en el amor.
Creo en el amor.
Creo en el amor.
Confío en vos para difundir mi petición de este mes. Que el diálogo sincero entre hombres y mujeres de diversas religiones conlleve frutos de paz y justicia. Confío en tu oración.
The way that we perceive life is changing because we are evolving. We are grasping something bigger. And it's time. It's time not because some kind of apocalyptical event is going to take place. And I don't believe any apocalyptical event will take place outside. But the most impetuous moment and event that's going to take, the tectonic plates of our heart is moving because we are tired of being exactly the same that we used to be. And we see the Pope, we see religious leaders, we see many other men and women talking about the same thing. Let's put the walls down and bringing and constructing and building bridges among men of good faith. And we can transform little by little this wonderful planet that we call planet Earth. In the book Nosso Lar, in the preface of the book, we have one small sentence by the Spirit Emmanuel. And Emmanuel says, it is not enough for individuals to cling to their human existence. That is necessary to know how to profit from such an existence with dignity. That's the steps of Christian. Whatever his or her religion's school may be, should move surely towards Christ. And when I say Christ, it's this love, this unconditional love. And that, in our doctrinal area, we need both Spiritism and spiritualism, but most of all, spirituality. spirituality brings us to the core of the creature, which is our essence, something that is extremely sublime. And to end, we all can do. Mother Teresa, I can do no great things, only small things, but with great love. Let's be the builders of our own futures, the builders of our lives. Thank you so much.